The ill-ruminated value of farmers' crops. We are here to educate you on the actual injustice that is rarely mentioned, the underpayment of farmers, especially smallholder farmers. How would you feel if you work so hard on a project and you don't get paid for it? Imagine that feeling, now multiplied by several decades. This is exactly what farmers go through. Loads of profit from the product, but the farmers have nothing to show for it. How much do you think farmers earn from one can of coffee? 11.5% of profit made by selling 250 grams of coffee, Dorman's coffee at 1,380, which means they get 165 Kenyan shillings, a vast minority. In Kenya, agriculture is one of the main contributors to the nation's GDP. This accounts for 65% of our export income, which is the vast majority. However, the farmers that produce these crops are unfairly remunerated for the produce of their hard labor, in most cases gaining less than 20% of the total profit made by their product.
In Africa, 70% of people work in agriculture, yet only 6% of these workers are above the poverty line. In Ghana, the average cocoa farmer does not make a livable wage from their produce. Brazilian and Mexican farm workers are exploited every day, working harsh hours for little to no pay.
Now let's focus on our country, Kenya. The world recognizes Kenya as the third largest exporter of tea in the world. A study showed that the largest external cost of tea production in Kenya is the underpayment of farmers. The study also showed that the secondary prices of any cash crop, which is reference to the exporters, manufacturers, and distributors, and the large amount of the profit made by selling the product, leaving the farmers with the scraps. Who is to blame? Some Kenyans that we interviewed during our process of research blame government policies that do not support the farmers, lack of education on how to ensure that their crops are fruitful among the farmers, no access to technology and proper infrastructure, leading to major post-harvest losses, cost of finances such as manure and pesticides are prohibitive, climate change, which leads to poor and unpredictable weather, and middlemen that exploit farmers and let farmers get less than 20% of the total profit collected when the product is sold.
Market prices by Sean Kituka. The market prices of crops have seen an all-time high, with the cost of 90 kilograms of maize rising by 260% in July 2023. Though the prices are experiencing a steady decline due to early harvest in August 2023. However, even though the current prices may seem favorable for farmers, they are not, with many farmers experiencing major losses due to production costs remaining high. It required the government to buy in maize at 5,500 Kenya shillings per bag, which is starter price ceiling by default, raising general market value by default. Alright, so what cash crops do you grow?
Vegetables, fruits, and sweet potatoes.
Okay. Do you export or sell it internally?
I sell it internally.
Can you say that you make a reasonable profit at the end of the month?
No.
Why is that?
The reason is small order farmers cannot make enough to withstand poverty. Is because they are faced by a lot of challenges, including family needs and the bad weather conditions. Family needs are many, and the unpredictable weather worsens the farmers' expectations, and also the cost of farm inputs is also a challenge.
All right, thank you. In your opinion, what are the factors that contribute to this?
The factors which contribute to this is poor and unpredictable weather conditions, and two is farm inputs, cost of farm inputs.
All right, sir. What do you think? What do you think? Who or what do you think is to blame, and why?
Mostly is the government,
Mm.
because the government has not invested properly in the agricultural sector. In that I mean the farmer should be assured of good farming environment which promises them value for their labor.
All right. If you,
The government must invest in resources like water, so that the farmer does not rely entirely on rainfall. And also, the government must make available cheap farm inputs and implements.
all right. If you're in a state to change the situation, what actions will you take to improve? What action will you take to improve it?
It is simple. The government must invest heavily in farming resources and the implements, and also in the climate change impact areas.
Okay.
That is it.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
So we have seen and learned that countries truly go through these issues. But how really do countries tackle the issue of the ill-remunerated value of farmers' crops? Let's first look at European countries. In European countries, there's a policy called the CAP, and you may be thinking, what is the CAP? You see, the CAP, other known as the Common Agricultural Policy, began on January 2023 and is to be used between 2023 to 2027. This policy is a union between society and agriculture that ensures a stable supply of food, ensures a stable farmer's income, protects the environment in which farmers work, and finally keeps the rural areas in relatively good shape. Or we could decide to look at countries in Soviet Central Asia. These countries include countries like Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. These countries use farmers' cooperatives. Farmers' cooperatives encourage and support the formation of farmers' cooperatives and encourage and empower farmers to collectively negotiate better prices of their crops in order for them to attain better pay. Other than that, we have countries like South Korea, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Chile, and Botswana. These countries use agricultural trade policies to protect domestic farmers from unfair competition and ensure fair access to international markets. It also gives them influence over domestic markets and allows them to raise their revenues. Or we could talk about countries that are typically spoken about, countries like United States, Canada, Australia, and Denmark. These countries both invest in agricultural research and extension services to produce high-yielding and resilient crop varieties, as well as agricultural extensions, the application of scientific research and new knowledge to agricultural practices throughout farmers' education. Or we could talk about countries that are less spoken about, countries like Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. You see, these countries use crop diversification and sustainable pricing to attain stable pay for farmers, as promoting crop diversification and sustainable farming methods can help farmers become more resilient to the market swings and ensure their long-term financial sustainability.